I'm sorry about that. Someone just told me my audio wasn't working. Oh, I am terribly sorry. This is Paul Henkel once again. Wow, that's embarrassing. Uh, I wanted to let everybody know to remember September 11th. This is a day to remember those who, not just those who lost their lives, but those whose lives were forever impacted by the events of 18 years ago. Those of you who don't know me, I had a customer in the World Trade Center. I had been to the World Trade Center many times, and I will never forget not only the images of the towers coming down, but the images of the aftermath. So whatever you do to remember the day, today itself is worth remembering. Just as next Tuesday, the 17th, Constitution Day, is worth remembering. It's funny. I've been doing this full time for about a year. I've been studying the Constitution for about 5 years. And I always find it interesting how often the Constitution's maligned, it's misunderstood, it's misrepresented. To me, I think the Constitution is a historical masterpiece. I mean, think about it. The U.S. Constitution has survived longer than any other national constitution in the world. And in fact, the only constitution that's been around longer than the U.S. Constitution is that of the state of Massachusetts. So while people refer to it as antiquated and outdated and we need to change it and rewrite it, there's, I believe, two really good reasons why the Constitution has survived so long. One is, you see, it's not a document that says, here's a list of do's and don'ts. If you really spend some time studying it, as I have, I think you'll find that it's a document of compromise, but it's also a document of principles. And I think those two facts working together is not only why the document has survived so long, it's why the government it created has survived so long. You think about the peaceful transition of power every 4 to 8 years among administrations, about how every 2 years we peacefully change the people in our legislature. And that comes from an understanding of the principles behind the document and the compromises that were made and not only brought us the document, allowed the document to be birthed, but are continuing through its life cycle. And, sometimes we don't like those compromises. But you see, it was in those compromises and in those principles we founded the seeds that ended slavery, that protected individual rights and the ability of even to address the deficiencies in the document itself. The document actually allows us to, as we grew out of those needed compromises, to update the document accordingly. So I think it's really important we spend a little bit of time remembering what the Constitution is and, in many cases, why things are such a mess. So let's remember a couple of things. It's sadly, many people I know seem to blame the Constitution for the state that our country is in today. I had a gentleman ask me to review a book he wrote talking about his desire to rewrite major parts of the Constitution. And he's not the only one. There are several people that say, well, the Constitution allows this. And, I'm sorry, based on my opinion, which is born out of facts and research, most of the things we complain about are not a problem of the Constitution, but from the fact that we don't follow it. And it's that fact that we don't know what it says and we don't follow it that actually, in many ways, led me to start the Constitution study. But it also sometimes is what gives me agita. It gives me that, I look and say, maybe this isn't going to work because we just don't seem to want to follow it. Now, some people may ask, why shouldn't we blame the Constitution? I mean, let's face it, it's the Constitution that governs a country, right? Well, no. You see, the Constitution is ink on parchment. Now, if you're expecting some ink on parchment to jump out of its case and dope slap some politicians and suddenly fix the problems, well, you're going to have an extremely long wait. The Constitution is a document. Now, in its articles and clauses are the ideas and principles that we wanted to govern this country, but it was the ideas that were to rule the nation. It's not the ink on parchment. You see, the Constitution describes the form and limits of a central government, but it is we, the people, through those we hire to do the work, that actually govern us. The Constitution, you often hear, especially in recent gun control debates, that laws don't stop crime, which is really true. Laws basically describe what crime is and what the punishments are for it. Well, the Constitution's a law. It's the supreme law of the land. It describes how we're to do things and what we can do if people don't follow the law, but it's still up to us to follow the law. In other words, the Constitution kind of describes the what and the how, but it's we the people that were to ensure that it was followed. Our founding fathers didn't expect a document to rule the people. They expected a document to do what the people of this country are supposed to do. We've changed America from a land of laws to a land of men. We no longer follow the supreme law of the land and then wonder why things don't work the way they're supposed to and then blame that document. So let's talk a bit about the Constitution. And for some of you, this may be a review, but let's remember not everybody has spent time studying the Constitution the way some of us have. So what is the Constitution? Or basically, what's it supposed to be? What was it supposed to do? Now, technically, the Constitution it's a compact, right? It's a contract. It's an agreement between sovereign entities. Well, what are these sovereign entities? Well, technically, it's the states themselves. They are the ones that came together to sign the contract. Now, where did the states get the authority to enter into such a compact? Put another way, how did the states become sovereign? They did so when we, the people, authorized them to declare independence. See, if we bring up some quotes here. If we read for the Declaration of Independence, we therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states. See, after declaring themselves free and independent, these new states banded together under the Articles of Confederation, and we fought the British to retain our newly assumed statehood. Now, after seeing the deficiencies of the Articles, different people had different ideas about how to make things better, but the reason why we ended up with a Constitution is actually plain and simple. All we have to do is read the preamble to the document itself. So he says, we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States. There's actually a lot in there, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. There's more on the website if you want it. And if you have questions, please put them in the comments. I will try to get to them after I've gone through some of this material. But you see, this is not all. See, listed in its preamble were all the reasons our founding fathers created the Constitution in the first place. Now, we often think about things like justice and defense, and we may even think sometimes about general welfare. But how often have you thought about the fact that the Constitution was created to secure to you and your children the blessings of liberty? That's in there. That's part of its purpose. And again, not just for those who wrote the Constitution, not just for the old white guys, as they're often referred to back in the 1700s, but for all their posterity. everyone who's come since. That includes you, that includes me, and that includes the people we argue with and debate with all the time. They are to have the blessings of liberty just the way we are. See, the Constitution was created in many ways to protect the rights and freedoms we hold dear, the very rights and freedoms that are under attack today, and in fact, the very rights and freedoms way too many Americans are trying to deny people they disagree with. See, if the Constitution was created to make the United States a more perfect union and to secure us the blessings of liberty, what happened? How do we deal with the lack of freedom of speech being infringed, freedom to keep and bear arms being infringed, your right to be secure in your home infringed? What happened? Well, basically, over the years, the American people who established the Constitution, right, says we the people right there, but we stopped paying attention to the Constitution in the first place. Now, initially, I think we stopped doing this by the fact that we stopped holding our elected representatives accountable to those they represent. I heard a great story, I heard it several years ago, about Daniel Boone when he was traveling through Tennessee, campaigning. He was meeting for people with re-elections. He bumped into this farmer, asked if he could talk to him, and said he'd hope he'd have his vote. And the farmer said, "No, sir, I can't." Daniel Boone said, "Why?" He says, "Well, you voted to appropriate money to help people in a disaster. That's not what we sent you there for. And if that's what you're going to do, then I can't vote for you." When was the last time you had a discussion like that with elected representatives? See, every 2 years we hire people to represent us, to work in our name, to do the job of governing in the name of the people of their district or of their state. Their job is to represent our interests and to express our views within this federal government that we created. Seems that we've forgotten that those men and women swear or affirm to support the very Constitution they violate day in and day out. You see, the Constitution not only creates the offices these representatives hold, but as the supreme law of the land, it also sets the boundaries and limitations on what that government can do and what all the governments that make up this union can do. And we stopped holding the people that work in our name responsible to say, you swore an oath, you affirmed an oath to uphold the Constitution, to support it, to follow it. And when you don't, you lose your job. See, we stopped holding the representatives to that oath. We don't even think about it anymore. We expect politicians to lie to us. And in fact, if they don't lie to us, they pretty much aren't going to get elected. And if they don't lie to us really, really good, they're surely not going to get reelected. We seem more concerned with how much of other people's money they're going to divert into our pockets, into our coffers, or what pet projects of ours they're going to spend other people's money on. See, we forgot de Tocqueville's warning. The American Republic will endure until the day that Congress discovers that it can bribe the public with the public's money. Look at what's going on in the election. And I don't just mean this election. As long as I can remember, the election material I get, whether it's ads on TV, in the mail, in newspapers and magazines, on the internet, they do one of two things. Either they say, this is how I'm going to get you money, or support some program you like, or this is why the other guy is bad. You see, we stopped holding our elected officials accountable to the oath they swear or affirm to support the Constitution. We set the Constitution aside for other things that we want. And lastly, we stopped teaching our children about the Constitution, about what it means. See, there was a time part of elementary school included memorizing the preamble to the Constitution. I've been out of school for over 30 years. I know in that time, that's not a requirement in a lot of places. And again, not just the structure of the government that the Constitution created. We stopped teaching them about how it is there to protect our rights, how the structure, how the document and the rules that it sets up protects our rights. The rights, again, we claimed so dear. We stopped teaching them how important it is not only to protect our own rights, but protect the rights of others. We took this responsibility of teaching our children and handed it over to government officials because they said they would find experts. See, first we started handing them over to the states, and then eventually the states started including the federal government, which, by the way, it's legally not allowed to. It's illegal for the federal government to spend money on education. We abdicated our role as educator and our duty to oversee the education of our children. We did little, if anything, when children were taught not about the limitations on government and how freedom comes with responsibility. We did nothing. When our children were taught that government ruled and that the government could and should decide for them how they should live their lives, we said nothing. So we allowed them to be taught to depend on the very government that was created to depend on them eventually. The government's supposed to be dependent on us, not the other way around. And, meanwhile, we the people, well, we just sat back, fat, happy, didn't care. We let it happen. And in fact, in many cases, we begged the government to do it. We begged state governments to take over our responsibilities. See, we no longer wanted to protect ourselves, to provide for the needy, or to provide for ourselves when we get older or got sick. We stopped looking at the federal government as our creation, bound by a set of enumerated powers that we had given it, and we began to look at it as our master. We no longer held those in Washington to the powers we had granted them. Worst of all, we now saw the federal treasury as an endless source of free money. All we had to do was vote for someone who would go get it for us. Didn't take long for politicians to do what de Tocqueville had predicted. Again, take a look at the political debate about the upcoming presidential election. When was the last time you heard about something being constitutional or not? No, what do you hear? We'll give you free health care. We'll give you free education. We'll take care of you when you're old. You don't have to worry about that. Oh, yeah, we're going to infringe on your rights because you're afraid of those bad guys over there. So we're just going to infringe on everybody's rights so that you feel better. See, first we handed over the states, and then the states started turning around saying, hey, the federal government, they came in with federal money. Hey, isn't this great? One town I lived in, the town was all abuzz. They were going to build a set of sidewalks, a very small town, because they were getting money for it. No one ever asked if we needed the sidewalk. We were getting money for it, so of course we're going to spend it. But we forgot that with federal money comes federal intrusion, eventually federal control. And since we had no longer learned the limits the people had put around the federal government through our Constitution, it grew and it grew and it grew. And all too often, we applauded it along the way. Oh, the federal government's going to spend money on education. That's great. That's wonderful. Oh, the federal government's going to spend money to make air travel safer. That's great. They're going to take care of us. They're going to protect us from bad drugs. Wonderful. Let's do that. We never bothered to, we stopped noticing because I had not been taught. I had not been taught about the limitations on government. And on the few cases when we did actually notice the federal government was violating the supreme law of the land, well, we expected someone else to do something about it. But unfortunately, when everyone expects someone else to do something, no one does anything. So we end up with this out-of-control government, not because the Constitution created it, but because those responsible for keeping the government in check were asleep at the switch. And now when many people see the dysfunction in Washington, they blame the Constitution. The problems we see did not originate with the Constitution. Now, the Constitution is not perfect. It's been amended 27 times over the years for good reason. But the problem isn't the Constitution. It's with the American people's unwillingness to learn about the supreme law of the land and hold their employees responsible when they work in their name. I found it very interesting as I was researching a few articles. You think about it. In the 1800s, when the federal government wanted to do something it hadn't done before, they passed a constitutional amendment. When the federal government wanted to increase taxes on income, we passed the 16th Amendment. When we decided that it was wrong for states to not grant rights to all citizens the same, we passed an amendment. When we just thought that the federal government should regulate and ban alcohol, we passed an amendment. And when we figured out that didn't work so well, we passed an amendment. And then somewhere around the 1960s, we stopped bothering amending the Constitution to grant the government power. We just allowed the federal government to do whatever it wanted, to ignore the Constitution. And then we turn around and blame the Constitution. The problem is we won't hold our elected officials accountable. So if you want to know where the problems in Washington originated, take a look in the mirror. You, me, our neighbors, we all have selected representatives because of bribery. They've bribed us with our own money. We tell them they must promise to support the Constitution, and yet we reelect them when they don't. We ask candidates what programs they will support, but we never ask ourselves if that program is constitutionally authorized or not. We look for people who promise to protect us and take care of us. We never asked, is that a role of government? And if so, to what limits? We've forgotten why we have a constitution in the first place, and we've made ourselves subjects of the government we created. And again, we applauded as they usurped powers we had not given them. And then we complained when they actually exercise those self-same powers. And this is not a political or partisan issue. People applauded Obama when he signed the Affordable Care Act, and people applauded George W. Bush when he signed the Patriot Act, both of which infringed on the rights of everyday Americans. It's not a partisan issue, folks. It's a question of constitutionality. It's a question of, are we going to follow the law or not? Because if we don't follow the law, then we're going to follow the bullies. Now, if the bad news is that we, the American people, are the root of the problem, then the good news, I keep saying, is that we, the American people, are the root of the problem. We don't need those in Washington to fix the problem. We don't even need those in our state capitals to fix it. We can fix it ourselves. All we have to do is be willing to educate ourselves rather than relying on others to do it for us. You see, the Constitution cannot rein in an out-of-control government. It shows us the mechanisms by which we can. If we created the federal government, then we are responsible for it. And if we have set up rules and boundaries within which that government is supposed to work, then it is our responsibility to enforce those rules. The Constitution did not govern the nation. It never has, and it never will. It doesn't even control governments. What it does, though, is list what we will and will not allow governments to do. But it's up to us to hold them accountable and, if need be, punish them for their misbehavior. So as we approach Constitution Day, this September 17th, let's remember the Constitution that our founding fathers created. Let's also remember the liberties that our predecessors purchased for us, often with their own blood. Let us vow to preserve as many of those liberties for our children and grandchildren as we can. Let's not let fear, partisanship, and rhetoric drive us to further destroy the rights and liberties of others. Let's take this opportunity to recognize I need to protect the rights of the person I dislike as much as a person I like. So let's take this September 17th. Let it just not be another date on the calendar. Not another Tuesday to get up and go to work. Not another Tuesday to get up and go to school. Let it be a day that we renew our efforts to make this a more perfect union. And we do that starting with understanding what it's supposed to look like. Then we can figure out how do we move our way towards enacting what our founding fathers created for us. So that's my Constitution Day message. It's I don't know. I look at this and say, like I said, I've spent the last 4 or 5 years studying the Constitution. I spent the last year working on it full time, and for me, it's a labor of love, but it's also sometimes rather frustrating when I see how little attention we seem to pay to this wonderful document. So, all right, let me see what's going on with questions and comments. Questions and comments. All right. All right. Let's see. What do we have here? Oh, yeah. Talking about the Supreme Court. I don't know why, but I can't. There we go. Okay. Yeah. It's a labor of love. Whoops. It's also sometimes rather frustrating when I see. I'm sorry, I was getting some feedback on that. Okay, so let's see. I'm sorry about the audio. Let's see. When the court's going to necessarily dissolve. Yeah, Adam made a point. I didn't cover it here because it actually comes from the Declaration, not the Constitution, though I do reference the Declaration. He's quoting from it, which says, when, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary to dissolve the political bands which have connected us with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God have entitled us, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind require that we shall declare the causes which impel us to separation. Yeah, that's quite true. I've been considering a new small booklet when I'm done with the book. I got so many things I want to work on. One of them is to go through the Declaration, and I did it a bit in the book, in the Constitution Study book. By the way, you can read that chapter. If you sign up for the mailing list, you get that chapter free. About all of the 27 grievances our founding fathers had, how many of them we can currently claim against the federal government, which really kind of sad. Okay. Bada boom, bada bing. Yes, we got the audio. The preamble says what the Constitution is supposed to do. Well, yeah, sort of. It gives the reason why. It's like the introduction to a book. This is why. This is what the Constitution was going to do. And in fact, one of the things I like to do, you really, from my point of view, when I try to explain the Declaration of the Constitution, I use the example of incorporating a business or a nonprofit. You have what are called the Articles of Incorporation, which are, it's a description of what you're creating and why. And that really is the Declaration of Independence. It gives, yes, what are we creating? We're creating, at that time, 13 free and independent states. Why are we creating it? 27 grievances. The Constitution is really the bylaws. It's the rules by which this new union was to work. So they wanted to make a better union. To do that, they wanted to ensure justice, domestic tranquility. It's the understanding that it was a brief explanation of why they were doing what they were doing. And I think it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, it helps us understand. That's why when I wrote the book, I have a whole chapter on the Declaration of Independence. You carry your state. I'm assuming, Adam, your state constitution. I actually have not read the Massachusetts Constitution. I've tried to read the state constitutions. Back when I lived in New York, that was painful. It was written by lawyers. And unlike the U.S. Constitution, it is edited. In other words, when you amend it, you actually take language out rather than just tacking it onto the end. Made life a little difficult for me. The end of the institution maintenance administration goes to secure the existence of the body politic. Okay. Adam is going on describing from the Massachusetts Constitution. The body politic is formed by the. Yep, he's making some points. It's and okay, Jesse, we've talked about this before, and is it a question of representation? I'm not saying we shouldn't fix and the question comes up with the census. So, every 10 years you have a census. Its primary purpose is supposed to be to apportion representation and taxation. Since the federal government doesn't depend on state taxes, now it seems mostly representation. And, is one representative for 750,000 people too much? Yeah, I think it is. But to me, that is a secondary or tertiary problem. That's not the root of the problem. I think the number of representatives doesn't change what people understand about about what the role of the representative is. I guess that's why I keep coming back. It's why I focus on educating everyday Americans. It's this idea that you can tinker with the mechanism, but until we get people that are sending representatives to Washington who understand what the role is supposed to be and are willing to hold them accountable to it, the number doesn't matter. It's just as easy for 10,000 representatives to infringe on our rights as it is for 435. If you have more representatives, but they aren't held accountable, it doesn't really fix the problem. So I know, Jesse, we've had that debate before. We have to hold them accountable. And if we're going to hold them accountable, we have to understand the document they swear to support. Now, maybe I'm biased because I spend most of my day reading and studying and talking about the Constitution. But to me, that seems to be the issue. And I think it's borne out by a lot of the questions and a lot of the comments I get that show a general lack of understanding about the Constitution. What do you got here? So I'm reading, I guess I'm not supposed to do that. I'm reading a note from Adam talking about Article 8. I'm not quite sure, Adam, what you're referring to there. Unless you mean amendment. No, because you got Article 18. That's got to be Amendment 18. Oh, I'm sorry. You're still reading from the Massachusetts. Never mind. Okay. Sorry about that, Adam. You're reading from the Massachusetts. Like I said, it's not that I don't find them interesting. I don't have the time or the bandwidth to study 50 state constitutions. I am busy enough trying to study one federal constitution and my own home state constitution. I live in Tennessee. So here we go. Jesse, the Supreme Court. Oh, get me started about the Supreme Court. I could probably write an entire book about how much we misunderstand the Supreme Court. In fact, I'll tell you a story. When I was looking for editors for the book, I sent out a sample chapter for them to edit. And in my sample chapter, I make a point. In my book, Supreme Court, the S in Supreme is not capitalized, because in the original document, Supreme is not a noun, it's an adjective. It's the Supreme Court. Court is a noun, Supreme's the adjective. It describes the court, as opposed to the Supreme Court, as opposed to the inferior courts. Because the courts don't declare things constitutional or not. And I know I just took every lawyer and made their head explode, but if you actually study the Constitution, the court has no power. The court doesn't rule. The court issues opinions. When you go to if you ever read what the Supreme Court or any other court, federal court puts out, it's the opinion of the court. And we have so lost this understanding of, we talk about three co-equal branches. Well, first, they're not co-equal, but we've lost the understanding of how they're supposed to interact. Talking about the Supreme Court, like Jesse said, it tends to make me sick. It makes me sick mostly because of seeing how badly people misunderstand what the court is, what its function is, and how it's supposed to work. I even go all the way back for those of you who study this like I do. We often hear about precedent or stare decisis, which, no justice of the Supreme Court ever swore or affirmed an oath to stare decisis. They swore an oath to support the Constitution. Now, the Constitution says what the role of is fairly broad. You talk about judicial power, but if you go all the way back in these studies, you hear about Marbury versus Madison. People who study this say, lawyers will tell you Marbury versus Madison is a court case where the Supreme Court found for itself the power to find laws unconstitutional. No. I've read Marbury versus Madison. Trust me, reading legal documents is not my idea of fun. What it did find was that, yes, the court says, yes, the court does have a process, is expected to exercise judicial review. Its job when it's reviewing a case is to look at all of the law involved, and that includes the Constitution. And then it says, okay, if the Constitution and the statutory law, the law that came from Congress, are in conflict, what is the court supposed to do? And you know what the court said? The court said, well, if that's the case, then the Constitution must supersede what the work that Congress has done. So the court must find in that case for the Constitution over Congress, the will of the people over the will of the elected representatives. Do you know what they don't say in that? That somehow this opinion magically invalidates or rewrites law. In fact, I'm thinking about I got so much stuff to write. I have an article I want to write. I did an article about how rules and regulations are simply laws by another name. Well, if you're a lawyer, you don't study the Constitution in law school, you study case law, which actually isn't law, it's judicial opinion. And I have a feeling I can go on quite a rant about that if I ever get there. It's a question of time. I don't talk about this as much, but things are pretty busy, not only with getting the book edited, but the web articles and the videos and all that. Sometimes I wish I had 10 days in a week just to do all the things I wanted to work on. Catherine, you carry a small copy of the Constitution in your book, in your purse. Excellent. What I'd love to see you do is actually bring that out and show it to people. I actually had somebody, we were debating the Second Amendment, at which point I carry mine on my phone. I actually have, in fact, I can show you, I think. I actually have an app on my phone, mainly because I'm just busy. I have an app on my phone. I don't know if you can see that. That has the text of the Constitution. And what I remembered is I pulled out my phone and pulled out the app to show him the actual language, and he didn't want to see it. So having that document is great. Knowing that document is better. Sharing what the document actually says is best, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get in front of a couple of college venues. I'm working with a couple of organizations here in the state of Tennessee. By the way, I'm going to start repeating this more and more. If you want me to speak to one of your groups, either live or over the web, contact me through the website. I love doing that. I have a great time speaking to all different groups. I've got a couple coming up in the next few months. I tried to get to the Northeast. It looks like it's not going to happen. I'm sorry for those of you up here. I really wanted to go visit Pennsylvania, New York, Massachusetts, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. But who knows? Maybe a last-minute miracle will happen. Let's see. Apparently, I guess Dustin says there's a group that'll help create a state constitution course for your state if I want to help them gather info. I love the idea. I just don't know that I have the time, and I haven't spent enough time with the Tennessee state constitution to really know how well it's written. Like I said, the New York one I spent some time with, and that was really difficult to read. But I find it funny how many state constitutions. I deal a lot with First Amendment issues. And the first thing most people forget about the First Amendment is the first few words are Congress shall make no law. The First Amendment to the Constitution actually restrains Congress, not states. But if you read the state constitutions, you'll find that all of the freedoms protected in the Bill of Rights are also protected by your state constitution, which is another issue that I think we have, is we keep making everything a federal case when it should be a state case. So I've searched several of the state constitutions, but I haven't actually researched them. Just another project to add to the pile. We'll see. Octavio, when is your book coming out? I don't have a specific date yet. My goal is to have it out by the end of the year. I've got my edited draft back. I'm going through it now. It's a bit of a slow process because you can only take so much of someone calling your baby ugly before you kind of have to step back and breathe and realize they're trying to help you make it better, not simply point out mistakes that you've made. And like most authors, I have certain mistakes I make over and over and over and over again. So it gets a little draining. My goal is to actually have the editing process done by the end of September, and then work with, it looks like it's going to be self-published. I haven't been able to sell to a publisher yet. Someone who's interested, point them my way. But it looks like I'm going to end up self-publishing, and my goal is to engage the publishing house probably in the October timeframe to try and have the book ready sometime late November, early December. But a lot of it has to do with how much time I can dedicate to it. And like I said, I'm torn because, yes, I want to work on the book and I want to get the book out, but I also want to meet with people. I've had a couple great opportunities at a couple of homeschool conferences. One here in Nashville, a couple in the Atlanta area, to meet with some great people. Because the other thing I want to do is I want to create an online study. And I've talked to several people about this. The idea is twofold. So if you read the book, that's great, but not everybody learns best from reading. Some people learn better through videos or other processes. So I wanted to take the books and kind of create it more of a video environment, a video tutorial through the Constitution, break it up into 3 sections. So there'd be the Bill of Rights, the 7 articles, and then the remaining amendments, and then share that and make that available on the web. That would be a fee. I've I've been working working full time without a job, without income, for almost a full year on this project. I'm doing fine, by the way, but I'm torn because if I want to keep doing this, I have to have some sort of income. So I want to sell the book. It's going to be one of them. So when the book comes out, I'm going to ask everybody here to help me spread the word. And again, I want to help set up book tours. I want to meet. I want to do interviews on podcasts and on radio stations and whatnot to get the word out. The next step is the study, which my plan is, once the videos are done for a section, to actually have an online meetup, a place where people who are studying the Constitution can better interact around questions. Here it's kind of, it's really one way, right? I'm Facebook Live, I'm talking to you. You can type your questions in, but there's not really an interchange. And I want to set up something where a group of people can get together online, have an online study where people can ask questions, we can discuss, we can debate. And again, that would be part of a package for the Constitution study. I've also been asked by at least a couple people to put together some material on how I teach, how I went from being an IT geek to a Constitution expert to someone who teaches the Constitution to other people. And if you're interested, let me know. Put it in the comments. Let me know at the website. That would be a little different. It would be focused not on the actual text of the Constitution, but on how to help people develop the tools and techniques to run studies of their own, to facilitate teaching, even to, I had one person ask to use it for their own rallies, even possibly for their own discussions with their elected representatives. Wouldn't it be nice if you could say, well, wait a second, the Constitution says this, and kind of have that information more at your fingertips. So that's why I said I'm busy. I've got several projects, big projects that are in the works, and I'm hoping to get some support to make those happen. So that's the book, and that's actually a bit more of what's been going on. I'm going to have some new flyers coming out that people, I don't know if I'm going to post them or not, but again, trying to to drive interest. I want people to I don't want people to have a barrier to learning the material. This material is extremely important, and I want to make sure whatever I do to help keep this funded and keep this going, I want to always be able to offer people who need it inexpensive or free access to material. And that's my catch-22, right? Because if I charge what this stuff is worth, then there are people who won't be able to afford it. And to me, that's bad. I really think people should have access to this. But if I give it all away, then I can't keep creating it because I'm going to have to go find a real job, and I'm going to have to spend less time working on this. So, hey, anybody's got a great idea, let me know. Right now, that's my process. The book is about 112,000 words, so it's not a huge book, but it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun writing. Let's see. I'm not seeing any other questions, but while we're finishing up here, Adam, I wonder if you've read and studied the Massachusetts Constitution. If you'd mind, I wonder what would happen if you write up some comparisons between it and the U.S. Constitution, since a lot of people will know more about that. Maybe an interesting thing to get people to start looking at their own state constitutions, compare and contrast it to the U.S. Constitution. And there might be an interesting little project for some people to pick up on and go forward with. So I'm not seeing any others. Where are we? We are about 7 minutes to the top of the hour. I apologize for the slight technical difficulty at the beginning. It was I hit the wrong button. I had my mic muted. Well, I guess that's the fun of doing things live. Uh, let's remember today. Again, today is September 11th. As I said, I did actually have customers in the World Trade Center. I was frequently, well, regularly in One World Trade Center back many years ago when I worked in that area. And I remember getting the phone call from my boss to make sure I wasn't in the building that day because he wasn't sure. So I can't imagine what it was like for him as I'm sitting there watching the news coverage. In many ways, America really came together and rallied around what happened in New York and Washington and Shanksville. But I think sometimes, although many good things came out of our reaction to it, I think in fear we let a lot of rights get trampled. In fact, I've got an article to research about the recent Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals opinion on the watch list, not the no-fly list, the watch list. And as usual, a lot of the material that's been put out, maybe it's a little hyperbolic, maybe it's not quite as well analyzed as it could be. We'll see. If we don't have any other questions, I don't know. I don't want to keep you here just with me rambling. As I said, remember September 11th. If you have family, give them a hug. If you have friends, give them a good warm embrace. Next Tuesday is Constitution Day. Catherine, you carry your copy around. Let all of us show the Constitution. Let's remind people of the rights that it was designed to protect. Let's remind people that while it's ink on paper, it gives us a lot of authority to turn on our government and say, no, these are the limits, and if you won't follow them, we'll find people who will. So with that, I think we will call it a night. Everybody have a good night. Enjoy what's left of your September 11th. Enjoy your Constitution Day. I think we do something similar come around December for the Bill of Rights. So, and if you have any other questions, put them in the comments. Put them, post them up on the website. I will try to answer them as soon as I can. And everybody, have a great day. Enjoy yourself. And I hope to see you again the next time on the Constitution Study Live. Have a great day.